this is unharnessed, and this is untrained, and this is very different than what's going on with the mind with meditation, which is harnessed and trained and focused. So your thought is that this mind factor is not just an inconvenience, it's not just a variable, but maybe one of the most crucial aspects to overall health. That,
if not the most crucial. Yeah. And again, conventional medicine is interested in this to some extent now, noticing that what people believe, like that you'll lose less blood in surgery if you visualize losing less blood in surgery, that actually happens. How can you control the physiologic activity of your body? But you can. That's why I was saying, like, we have
they
software.
They can prove that?
It's a study on PubMed.
Wow.
Yeah,
so how do they convince them that they're going to lose less blood?
They visualize it. They meditate on it, visualize losing less blood. So they have one group that says you're going to do a visualization where you just like visualize your body letting go of less blood after the surgery or during the surgery. And then the other group just does their thing.
What if you have one group, you say, dude, you're going to spray like a fountain. You're like a broken fire hydrant. You're going to just be gushing all over the table. You're going to be a sprinkler.
You're right. You should conduct this study. That would be fascinating to see if the nocebo effect would have. It probably would. They probably would.
Yeah, I would imagine there's probably a way you could mind fuck someone into some terrible state, right?
So you know where we see this is in cancer diagnosis. It's called medical hexing. That, you know, when you are diagnosed with cancer, your risk, the completion of suicide, but also other accidents, and your health basically declines simply because of the diagnosis, and that's why it's considered to be, it's like bone pointing or something.
So it's voodoo. It's what we've always known, that like someone could put a hex on you, and if you know that a hex is on you, you're like, God damn, there's a goddamn hex on me.
That's
and
right.
you start believing it.
That's right.
And then it could really cause a huge issue.
That's what has become clear to me is real. And we don't want to think about it that way because we think medicine is science and it's, this, sort of impenetrable, the hallowed halls of truth. But it's a religion, just like anything else. In fact, Nick Gonzalez, my mentor, said it's the last really unrecognized religion on the planet is medicine. And, we have special language and we wear costumes and there's initiatory rites. We're talking about the hazing process of...
But it's real in a lot of aspects, like the medicine involved in treating a bacterial infection, antibiotics, the medicine involved in healing a broken arm. There's real stuff there.
So
too.
Antibiotics is a whole nother conversation for sure. Emergency medicine. Listen, if I get hit by a bus, don't bring me to my
bring you to the healer.
My naturopath in her
She's gonna
office
light a
downtown.
candle.
Yeah, right, exactly.
It's gonna be fine.
Don't start saging my body. For emergencies, that's what conventional medicine is really designed for. We only ran into trouble when we started extrapolating from acute setting medicine into the outpatient world.
Well, also the denial of the aspects of nutrition, like the denial of the influence of nutrition, like this idea of only concentrating on the medicine and not concentrating on what we know to be viable alternatives and things that can make your body healthier. Like not taking that into account it seems almost insane. It seems like you're going to fix a car. Like, I hear a banging. Oh, I'm just going to inflate these fucking tires. And, what about the engine? There's a banging in the engine. Should I fix the engine? Like, no.
No. Just turn off the alarm light.
Yeah, let's just turn the AC on. Like, it's almost like there's
but it's not
certain
insane.
aspects they're looking at, the aspects of medication, and because of all the aforementioned variables like student loans, the consensus of your peers,
right.
Everybody's in this sort of group together. There's all this unspoken word that you're not going to criticize the establishment, and you can't really do that because if you do, you're out of a job, and all your money that you spend on, God.
Yeah, I mean, it's important to remember that the pharmaceutical industry is a business, right? When you forget that and you think that they're in it to protect your well-being,
they're here to help us. I see commercials.
Right. If you forget that, which is easy to do,
right?
Especially because they work with doctors and we think of doctors as priests still.
Right.
If you forget that, then you can get into trouble because you take their word for something you perhaps should be doing a broader investigation on. Mm-hmm. But if you remember that it's a business and it's very lucrative, successful business, I mean, it's the business model of all time, then you'll look with some circumspection upon their claims and their approach, but our education as doctors is totally through the lens of pharmaceutical model, you know, regulatory agencies famously, like the FDA, CDC, and industry, it's like a revolving door, literally, you know, and this is totally available information on the internet, that they're all the same people. So we really do have the fox guarding the henhouse, and that's where we get into trouble. If we don't have transparency around a true regulatory body that is not, you know, fiscally invested, we're going to have a problem, especially if we're presenting this as the only legitimate course of action for a sick patient, you know, where you can actually, as a parent, have your children taken away from you if you don't participate in the model.
Have there ever been any serious suggestions that we remove this whole ask your doctor commercial aspect of medicine? Like, it just seems
Not to my knowledge.
It seems so crazy that we know how influential commercials are.
Right.
I mean, they're so influential. And these are not just fact-based commercials. They've got cheery music going on. There's sunshine and butterflies and shit. And it just makes you feel like super happy. Like, I want to be like these people. They're smiling all the time.
Totally. It's conditioning.
It's so crazy that they can do that for drugs.
But you could argue, right, that you're just empowering patients with knowledge to help themselves, right? Like, that's why we're allowing the commercials. You know,
ask your doctor if Abilify is going to keep you from jumping off a bridge.
Or make you do it.
Ask your doctor.
Oh my gosh, no, I know.
Yeah. So you said Abilify was at one point in time the most prescribed?
Yeah, recently it was the #1 prescription. I think it was 2 years ago. Synthroid's always up there, but yeah, it was. And it's because there's these trends, I guess, these stylistic trends in prescribing that, of course, have no evidence-based, but in psychiatry, we're really vulnerable to that because there isn't a clear, you know, A to B in terms of presenting symptoms and medication recommendation. It's sort of a free-for-all. You know, you can pile on as many or as few as you want, and there are algorithms, but they're very loose.
What you're trying to say is Scientology is right.
Who said that?
It's kind of what you're trying to say, right? I mean, aren't they like super anti-Scientology? Remember when Tom Cruise was on with what's his face? What's that dude's name? The dude's name, the Good Morning America guy. He's glib.
Wasn't he on Oprah
What's his
too?
name?
Matt Lauer.
Matt Lauer, yeah. Matt, you're
Matt
glib.
Lauer, that's right.
You're glib, Matt. Yeah, he's been on that. But in Oprah, it was when he was in love. He
was
jumped up
jumping
on
on
the
the
couch and he was in love like no straight man who's ever lived on the face of the planet.
Let him do his thing.
Yeah, he's in love. I'm in love. I'm in love. Now I'm divorced. But back then, I was into it. But no, when he was saying that on the Good Morning America show with Matt Lauer, he was essentially just saying what Scientology's always said. Like, if you go down Sunset or Hollywood, where's the Psychiatry Kills Center?
Oh, right. Yeah.
You know?
I think it's on Sunset.
There's some part of Hollywood.
Yeah. We used to have protests outside of the
They have
hospital,
people with
too.
like electroshock helmets on, like, and like it's like Psychiatry Kills. Like, what is this? It's a fucking Scientology center.
I know.
If you go in there, they're like, you don't need Scientology. You need to hold on to these cans that are attached to the e-meter. We got to find out what's ticking. You know, and then they start manipulating your beliefs, and that in turn helps you feel better. So there is some sort of a correlation between the mind, you know, getting, I mean, in a way, like they're almost like not totally misguided in their efforts, right?
Yes, and I would say an important difference in my perspective, perhaps, and theirs, is that I believe in like individual empowerment.
Also,
so,
you're not asking for 10% of all their income, and you don't require 2.5 hours of study every night.
Yeah, no, there's hopefully more differences than that. But no, I mean, it's, you know, if you're subsuming someone into a, I don't want to say like
Cult.
Culture. How about a culture?
Oh, that's cool. Just pause before I say the chur. Culture.
Then you're just transferring dependence, you know, from one model to the next. And, you know, sort of my bag is to really give people back their power through a methodology that's, you know, their own alone.
I think that highlights why that stuff works for people and why a lot of different things work for people. A lot of different kinds of religions and unfortunately a lot of different cults and a lot of different ideologies and a lot of different mindsets do work for people. Even fucking CrossFit. There was a great article that I read about equating CrossFit to the fact that people do not have these religious groups. They don't have these social bonding
it's
groups.
like a community.
Because they're not going to church anymore. So now they're going to this gym and they'll, like, a lot of them literally call the gym church.
Totally.
Yeah.
Have you heard of the rat park studies?
Rat park?
Yeah, rat, like the rodent.
Which studies on what?
So there are these Canadian studies that basically looked at the addictive model of cocaine, right? So like we know, right, that if you put a rat in a cage by itself and you give it the choice of water or cocaine, it's going to drink the cocaine until it dies.
Yeah, I am aware of these studies.
But then these researchers were basically like, well, hold on a minute. That's like totally unnatural environment for a rat to be in. So what if we like put it in rat heaven where it can like have sex with other rats and hang out and have like a community and there's things to play with and little wheels and whatever. Then what happens? And if you give them cocaine or water, they don't touch the cocaine. And you can even addict them in isolation and they will voluntarily detox in rat heaven.
Isn't that fascinating?
In the rat park.
Yeah.
So what does that mean, right? It means that we fundamentally need community. Like we need each other, like it or not. And we don't have that as a part of the fabric. We live in boxes. We don't know our neighbors. Like we don't have communities anymore.
Right.
And so anytime we have the opportunity, whether through AA or CrossFit, to plug into a community, we fix something inside ourselves so we have less of a vulnerability to abuse the effects of a substance like cocaine or alcohol or whatever.
The rat park study is so important because so many people will cite that as evidence that cocaine is so incredibly addictive. Well, then when they find out about this, because this is like a different variation on that study, and they go, well, oh, okay. I'm in a rat park.
The context.
Like,
The context matters.
I mean, you're kind of in a rat park every day if you're in a cubicle environment, you're in your car in traffic, or you're on the bus and no one's talking to anybody.
You're in your little cubicle by yourself, you know, with
and then there's shared suffering that's coming from things like CrossFit, where you have these moments where you're bonding together, almost like you guys are, you know, you're in the trenches, right?
Yeah.
There's
suffering together.
There's something to yoga class like that. People get all Satnam, Namaste on you. I mean, there's a lot of
like
that.
There's a lot of struggle. It's hard.
It's hard.
It's super hard.
Yeah. Yoga's really hard, and that's part of what's good about it, is that I think we need hard things. I think your body, if you're just constantly nerfed and everything's soft and everything's a free ride and there's no ups or downs and everything's middle, like, what is that? That's not a human. It's